Yoon-ho Kim stared at the bone fragment under his microscope. The lab was quiet except for the soft hum of equipment. Outside the window, the barren landscape of LV-219 stretched into the distance, a moon orbiting a giant gas planet where no one wanted to live. That was fine with Joon-ho. He preferred to be alone with his work. For 15 years he had studied these strange pieces. They looked like bone, but they were not from any animal known to science. They contained elements not found in the Milky Way galaxy. Most scientists had given up on understanding them years ago. Worthless space junk, his former colleague had called them before leaving the research station. "You're wasting your life, Joon-ho." But Joon-ho knew better. These fragments were special. Sometimes when he held them under different lights, ultraviolet, infrared, even cosmic radiation, he could see faint patterns on their surface. The patterns seemed to shift and change. It was as if they were alive somehow. Today was no different. Joon-ho carefully turned the fragment, looking for something new. His eyes burned from lack of sleep. His back ached from sitting too long, still he kept working. "There must be something I'm missing," he muttered to himself. The research station was empty now. Everyone else had left months ago when the funding dried up. Only Joon-ho remained, using his own money to continue his study. He reached for a tool to adjust the fragment's position. The edge of the metal tool was sharp. As he grabbed it, it slipped in his hand. Ouch! Joon-ho pulled back his hand quickly. Blood welled from a small cut on his finger. "Perfect," he said with a sigh. Without thinking, he reached for a cloth to wipe the blood. His bleeding finger brushed against the bone fragment. The change was instant. The bone lit up with bright blue light, filling the dark lab with an eerie glow. Joon-ho jumped back, knocking over his chair. The fragment pulsed, with light, revealing intricate patterns across its surface. They were not random. They were not shifting. They formed a clear image. A map. "Impossible," Joon-ho whispered, but he was looking right at it. The pattern showed stars, systems, routes between them. It was a star map, revealed by his blood. Heart racing, Joon-ho carefully touched the fragment again with his still bleeding finger. The light grew stronger. The map became clearer. "All this time," he said, voice filled with wonder, "it was waiting for human blood." For the next 3 days, Joon-ho barely slept. He tested his theory again and again. When the bone fragments touched human blood, his blood, they revealed their secrets. Each fragment showed a different part of the same map. Together, they might lead to something amazing. He sent his findings to the Interstellar Archaeological Society. Their response came quickly. Results contaminated by biological interference. Request denied for further funding. Joon-ho threw the message pad across the room. "They don't understand," he said to the empty lab. "This isn't contamination, it's activation. The blood is the key." He needed help. He needed a ship. He needed someone who would believe him. There was only one person he could turn to, though. They hadn't spoken in years. Joon-ho sat in front of the quantum communication device. He hesitated, then pressed the call button. After a moment, a face appeared on the screen. The woman looked tired, with dark circles under her eyes. Her hair was pulled back in a practical style. She frowned when she saw him. "Joon-ho, is that really you?" "Hello, Ji-eun," he said to his sister. "I need your help." Captain Ji-eun Kim of the independent research vessel Serenity's Echo leaned closer to the screen. "The last time I heard from you was at Mom and Dad's funeral, 5 years ago." Joon-ho nodded sadly. "I know. I'm sorry I haven't called. I've been busy." Ji-eun laughed without humor. "Busy, of course. While I've been flying cargo across the system just to make ends meet, you've been busy with your rocks." "Bones," Joon-ho corrected. "And I've found something. Something big." "You always think you've found something big." "I need your ship," Joon-ho said, ignoring the jab. "I found something that could change everything we know about the universe." Ji-eun sighed deeply. The screen showed her running a hand over her face. "Last time you said that, we ended up stranded on Europa for 6 months." "This is different," Joon-ho insisted. He held up one of the fragments to the camera. These bones, they're a map, and somehow they respond to human blood, to my blood. They're showing us the way to something incredible. Ji-un was quiet for a long moment. You know what the stellar hegemony would do if you're right? If alien technology responds to human blood, they'd use it as a weapon. That's why I need your help, Junho said. Your ship isn't registered with the hegemony. We can stay off their radar. Ji-un frowned, but Junho could see she was interested. Family was family, after all. Send me the coordinates, she finally said. I'll be there in 2 weeks, but Junho, if this is another wild space chase, it's not, I promise. After the call ended, Junho began packing his equipment. He carefully placed the 7 bone fragments in a special container. Each one was roughly the size of his palm, with smooth surfaces that belied their true nature. Together, they would reveal the whole map. Together, they would lead to a discovery that would change human history. What Junho didn't know was that his conversation with Ji-un had not been private. Miles above the research station, in orbit around LV-219, a small stellar hegemony spy satellite had intercepted their communication. In his office on Earth, Officer Tae-woo Choi listened to the recording again. His uniform was crisp, his posture perfect. His eyes gleamed with interest as Junho described the bones that responded to human blood. Sir? His assistant stood in the doorway. Should we send a team to retrieve the artifacts? Tae-woo smiled slowly. No, let's wait. Let's see where his sister takes him. He tapped his fingers on the desk. If human blood can activate alien technology, think of the possibilities. Think of the weapons we could create. Yes, sir. Track the Serenity's echo, Tae-woo ordered. But keep your distance. I want to see where this map leads before we make our move. Back on LV-219, Junho looked out at the stars, unaware that he was being watched. In 2 weeks, his sister would arrive. In 2 weeks, they would follow the map written in alien bone, a map that, for some reason, only a human heart could unlock. He had no idea that the greatest adventure of his life was about to begin, and that the fate of humanity might rest on the secrets hidden in those ancient fragments. The Serenity's echo drifted into orbit around LV-219 exactly 2 weeks later. The ship was not impressive to look at. Its hull was scratched and dented from years of travel through asteroid fields and dust clouds. But it was fast and, more importantly, it did not appear on any official stellar hegemony registries. Ji-un Kim stood at the main viewport watching the barren moon grow larger as they approached. Behind her, her small crew prepared for landing. Approaching final orbit, Captain, said Hyunwoo Park from the pilot's chair. Half of his face was metal, with a glowing blue eye that connected directly to the ship's systems. His hands moved, quickly over the controls, barely touching them. Take us down near the research station, Ji-un ordered, quietly. From the engine room, Suk Ja-yoon's voice came through the speaker. The fusion drive is running hot, Captain. We pushed it too hard getting here so fast. Will it hold for landing? Of course it will hold, Suk Ja replied, sounding offended. I just need to baby it a little. Ji-un smiled. Suk Ja could make any engine work, even ones that should have died years ago. The ship's doctor, Dae-jung Lee, entered the bridge. He looked tired, as always. Once he had been a famous surgeon on Earth. Now he was hiding on a small ship, running from his past and the addiction that had destroyed his career. Is your brother really onto something this time? He asked Ji-un. We'll find out soon, she replied. The landing was smooth. Ji-un was the first one down the ramp, breathing in the thin, artificial air of LV-219. The research station looked abandoned, with most of its lights off. Only one section still glowed with life. Junho was waiting for them at the entrance. He looked thinner than Ji-un remembered, with dark circles under his eyes. But those eyes were bright with excitement. You came, he said, as if he had doubted she would. I said I would. Ji-un did not move to hug him. There was too much unsaid between them. Show me what you found. Inside the station, Junho led them to his lab. It was messy, with papers and equipment covering every surface. In the center sat a small metal container. This is it? Sukja asked, looking unimpressed. This is what's going to change the universe? Junho smiled. Watch. He opened the container carefully. Inside were 7 pieces of what looked like bone, each about the size of his hand. He took out the smallest piece. The crew leaned closer, curious despite themselves. Junho took a small needle and pricked his finger. When a drop of blood touched the bone fragment, it began to glow with bright blue light. Suddenly, the air above the fragment filled with a map of stars and planets, systems that none of them recognized. Incredible, Daejung whispered, leaning closer. It's responding to something in your DNA. Not just my DNA, Junho explained. I've tested it. It responds to human blood, all human blood, but the patterns it reveals are different depending on who activates it. Ji-eun frowned. So it's personalized or random? Neither, Junho said. I think it's measuring something. Something about us. Our emotions, perhaps. Our capacity for certain feelings. Hyunwoo, who had been quiet until now, pointed at the map. These star systems don't match any in our charts. Exactly, Junho said. This is a map to somewhere we've never been. Somewhere important. Before they could discuss further, a loud alarm blared through the ship. Hyunwoo's cybernetic eye flashed. Captain, he said urgently. 3 hegemony cruisers just entered the system. They're heading straight for us. Ji-eun's face hardened. How did they find us so quickly? They must have been following you, Junho said, quickly putting the fragments back in their container. Or monitoring my communications. Sukja was already heading for the ship. We need to leave now. What about your research? Ji-eun asked her brother. Your equipment? Junho held up the container. This is all that matters. Everything else is in my head. They ran for the Serenity's Echo. As they reached the ship, Hyunwoo called out from the cockpit. They're broadcasting a message. They're ordering us to surrender all alien artifacts and prepare for boarding. Ignore it, Ji-eun commanded, strapping herself into the captain's chair. Sukja, can the engines handle a fast takeoff? They'll have to, came the reply from the engine room. Daejung helped Junho secure the container of bone fragments. They know what we have, Junho said quietly. They know what it can do. Then we'd better figure it out first, Ji-eun replied. Hyunwoo, plot a course for the Kuiper Belt. We'll lose them in the ice fields. The Serenity's Echo lifted off, engines screaming with effort. Above them, the 3 hegemony cruisers moved to intercept. They're charging weapons, Hyunwoo reported. Ji-eun gripped the arms of her chair. Evasive maneuvers. Get us out of their targeting range. The small ship dipped and swerved, barely avoiding the first shots from the hegemony cruisers. The larger ships were powerful but slow to turn. The Serenity's Echo, for all its age and wear, was nimble. Hold on, Hyunwoo warned as he pushed the ship into a steep dive skimming the surface of LV-219. The ship shuddered around them. Sukja, we need more speed, Ji-eun called. I'm giving her all she's got, the engineer shouted back. Any more? And the fusion drive will melt. Junho watched the navigation screen. The hegemony cruisers were falling behind, but they weren't giving up. Why are they so determined? Daejung asked. They're military vessels pursuing a small research ship. It seems excessive. Because of what the bones can do, Junho explained, holding the container tightly. If human blood can activate alien technology, think of the military applications. Weapons that only respond to your soldiers. Defense systems that recognize your people as friendly. Ji-eun looked back at her brother. And you brought this to my ship. I didn't know who else to trust, Junho said simply. The chase continued for hours. Hyunwoo guided the ship through asteroid fields and gas clouds, using every trick he knew to lose their pursuers. Finally, as they approached the edge of the system, the hegemony cruisers began to fall behind. They're breaking off, Hyunwoo reported, his human eye showing relief while his mechanical one continued to track their course. They'll be back, Ji-eun said. With more ships. We need to understand what we have before they catch up to us. In his quarters that night, Junho carefully examined each bone fragment again. When activated with blood, they showed different parts of the same star map. Together, they would lead somewhere. But where? And why did they respond to human blood on the bridge? Ji-eun watched the stars slide by outside the viewport. She had not planned to become involved in something this big. She had been content running small cargo shipments, staying off the hegemony's radar. Now they were fugitives, carrying something the most powerful military force in the galaxy wanted badly. "Where are we going?" Hyunwoo asked from his station. Ji-eun thought about it. "We need time to figure this out. Set course for the Kuiper Belt. The ice fields and asteroids there will make it harder for them to track us." As the Serenity's Echo changed course, none of them noticed the small tracking device that had attached itself to their hull during landing. In his office, Officer Tae-woo Choi watched their progress on a holographic display. He smiled to himself. "Run, all you want," he said to the moving dot that represented their ship. "You're just leading us to an even bigger prize." The pursuit had begun, a small research vessel against the might of the stellar hegemony. But the bone map had chosen Junho, for a reason, and the siblings were about to discover exactly why human blood was the key to unlocking its secrets. 3 weeks passed as the Serenity's Echo hid in the Kuiper Belt. The vast field of ice and rock provided good cover, but fuel was running low. The crew was tired, and tensions were high. Junho rarely left the small lab he had set up in the cargo hold. He spent every waking moment studying the bone fragments, trying to understand their secrets. One evening, Ji-eun called the crew to the ship's common area. They needed a plan. "We can't hide forever," she said, looking at each of them. "Sooner, or later, the hegemony will find us or we'll run out of fuel." Sukja nodded in agreement. "The fusion drive is at 30% capacity. We have maybe 2 more jumps before we're stranded." "Have you learned anything useful?" Ji-eun asked her brother. Junho ran a hand through his messy hair. "I think I understand it better now," he said. "It's not just a map to a place. It's directions to a specific location, but the coordinates shift based on who activates the bone." "That makes no sense," Sukja argued. "Coordinates are absolute. A place is where it is." Daejung, who had been helping Junho with his research, shook his head. "Not necessarily. What if the destination exists in multiple places at once, or what if it's accessing different dimensions?" Ji-eun rubbed her temples. She was getting a headache. "So where are we supposed to go? We can't follow a map that changes every time we look at it." Junho hesitated. "I've been thinking about that. The bone doesn't just respond to blood. It responds to emotions, strong emotions. When I'm excited or curious, the map leads to one place. When I'm afraid, it leads somewhere else." "So what?" Hyunwoo asked, speaking up for the first time in days. "We follow your feelings?" "Not exactly," Junho replied. "I think we need to follow the strongest emotion, the defining human emotion." "Which is?" Ji-eun pressed. Junho looked at his sister, remembering the day their parents died, how she had held him as they both cried. "Love," he said simply. "We need to activate the bone with love." The room was quiet for a moment. "Love," Sukja repeated, sounding doubtful. "How do we do that? Just think happy thoughts while bleeding on it?" "I don't know exactly," Junho admitted, "but I think it's worth trying." That night, as the others slept, Ji-eun found Junho in the observation deck. He was staring out at the stars, with one of the bone fragments in his hand. She sat beside him without a word. For a long time, neither of them spoke. The silence between them was heavy with all the years they had been apart. "I'm sorry," Ji-eun finally said, "for pushing you away after Mom and Dad died. For blaming you. For taking that research position off-world instead of being there when they got sick." Junho's eyes filled with tears. "I should have been there. We both should have been," Ji-eun acknowledged. "But we're here now. Together." She reached out and took his hand in hers. The simple touch bridged years of distance. They sat together, sharing memories of their parents, laughing and crying. For the first time in years, they were truly brother and sister again. Neither of them noticed the bone fragment in Junho's lap. It began to glow with a blue light, brighter than it had ever glowed before. The map it projected was clear and steady, showing a single set of coordinates. The next morning, Hyunwoo plotted a course to the newly revealed location. It was a small unknown planet orbiting a red dwarf star at the edge of explored space. "It will take all our remaining fuel to get there," he warned. "What if it's a trap?" Sukja asked, looking worried. "What if there's nothing there?" "There's something there," Junho insisted. "Something important, I can feel it." Jiun made her decision. "Set the course. We're going." The journey took 5 days. The ship was quiet, everyone lost in their own thoughts. What would they find at the end of this strange map? Would it be worth all they had risked? As they approached the planet, their sensors detected something unexpected. "There's a structure on the surface," Hyunwoo reported from the pilot's seat. "It's huge." On the main screen they saw it, a massive tower rising from the planet's barren surface. It was made of the same material as the bone fragments, gleaming dully in the red light of the nearby star. "It's ancient," Junho whispered, staring at the scan results. "Older than human civilization, maybe older than Earth itself." "And it's been waiting for us," Jiun added. "For humans, specifically." The excitement on the bridge was electric. They had found something truly amazing, proof of an ancient alien civilization that had somehow known about humans, had created technology that responded to human blood. As the Serenity's echo moved into orbit around the planet, Daijung asked the question they were all thinking. "What do we do now?" "We land," Jiun said. "We explore. We find out why this place was waiting for human blood to find it." But before they could begin landing procedures, every system on the ship suddenly went dark. The lights, the engines, the life support all stopped working at once. "What's happening?" Jiun demanded, trying to get the controls to respond. Hyunwoo's cybernetic eye was the only light on the bridge. "Something's draining our power. All systems are failing." Outside the viewport, a new ship appeared, seemingly out of nowhere. It was massive, easily 10 times the size of the Serenity's Echo. Its sleek black hull bore the insignia of the stellar hegemony. A voice crackled over their emergency comm system, the only system still functioning. "This is Officer Taewoo Choi, of the stellar hegemony Dreadnought Inevitable. Your ship is now under our control. Thank you for leading us to this remarkable discovery." Fear gripped the crew. They had been followed all this way. "How?" Ji-yoon asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Junho's face was pale. "The tracking device. They must have placed it on the ship at LV-21. You've led us right to it." Choi's voice continued, smug and satisfied. "How convenient. Now surrender the artifacts and prepare to be boarded." Ji-yoon looked at her brother, then at the rest of her crew. They had come so far, risked so much. She wouldn't give up now. "We need a plan," she said quietly, making sure the comm was off. "We can't let the hegemony take control of whatever is down there." Junho clutched the container with the bone fragments. "These are the key," he said. "They respond to us, to our emotions, our humanity. The hegemony can't use them the same way we can." Jiun nodded, an idea forming. "Sukja, how functional are the escape pods?" The engineer grinned, understanding immediately. "Just reprogrammed them last month. They're not registered in any hegemony database." "Good," Jiun said. "Hyunwoo, can you set the ship's autopilot to initiate a core meltdown sequence once we're clear?" The pilot nodded. "It will look like a system failure. It should give us enough time to get away." "And where exactly are we escaping to?" Daejung asked, already gathering medical supplies. Jiun pointed to the planet below, to the massive alien tower rising from its surface. "There, to the structure. Whatever the bone fragments are leading us to, we need to find it before the hegemony does." As Officer Taewoo Choi prepared his boarding party, he had no idea that the prize he sought was about to slip through his fingers once again. The crew of the Serenity's Echo had one last card to play, and the ancient tower waiting on the planet below held secrets that only the human heart could unlock. The escape pod shook violently as it entered the planet's atmosphere. Inside, the 5 crew members of the Serenity's Echo were pressed against their seats by the force of descent. "Hold on," Ji-un shouted over the roar of the heat shields. "This is going to be rough." Behind them, visible through the small rear viewport, the Serenity's Echo was trapped in the Hegemony Dreadnought's tractor beam. But the ship's core was already beginning its meltdown sequence. Soon, the Hegemony would have more to worry about than one missing escape pod. Junho clutched the container with the bone fragments tightly against his chest. These precious artifacts had led them across the galaxy, and now they were about to discover what secret they had been protecting for thousands of years. The escape pod broke through the cloud layer, and the alien structure came into view. It was even more impressive up close, a tower of the same strange material as the bone fragments, rising nearly a kilometer into the sky. Its surface was covered with flowing patterns like frozen rivers. "Aim for that flat area," Ji-un told Hyunwoo, who was struggling with the pod's simple controls. "I'm trying," he said through gritted teeth. His cybernetic eye flashed rapidly as he calculated their descent. The winds are strong. The landing was hard but successful. The escape pod hit the ground and skidded for several hundred meters before coming to a stop. For a moment, everyone sat in silence, just grateful to be alive. "Is everyone okay?" Daijung asked, already checking the others for injuries. Sukja rubbed her shoulder where the safety harness had dug in. "I'll have some bruises, but I'm fine." They climbed out of the pod and stood on the surface of the alien world. The ground was hard and rocky, with no signs of plant life. The air was thin, but breathable. Above them, the red dwarf star cast an eerie light over everything. "We need to move quickly," Ji-un said, looking up at the sky. "The Hegemony will send landing parties as soon as they deal with our ship." They began walking toward the tower. It was about 2 kilometers away, its massive form dominating the horizon. As they got closer, they could see more details of its strange architecture. It had no visible doors or windows, just the flowing patterns that covered every surface. "It's beautiful," Sukja whispered, momentarily forgetting their dire situation. "And completely sealed," Hyunwoo noted, pointing out the absence of any visible entrance. "How do we get in?" Junho approached the base of the tower, the container of bone fragments held tightly against his chest. As he got closer, the fragments began to glow, their light visible even through the container's shielding. "I think it recognizes these," he said, like keys returning to a lock. Daejung scanned the structure with his medical device. "There's some kind of energy field coming from it. It's getting stronger since we arrived." "Since the bone fragments arrived," Ji-un corrected. Junho carefully opened the container and removed one of the fragments. After a moment of hesitation, he pressed it against the surface of the tower. To everyone's surprise, the fragment didn't just stick to the surface. It sank into it as if the solid wall had suddenly become liquid. "It worked," Junho breathed, amazed. He felt drawn to different spots along the tower's base. Following this instinct, he placed each of the 7 fragments in specific locations. Each one sank into the material, leaving no trace behind. When the final fragment was placed, something remarkable happened. A seam appeared in the tower's surface, widening to create an entrance. Inside, soft blue light illuminated a spiral path leading upward. "We don't have much time," Ji-un said, checking her scanner. "The Hegemony ships will have landing parties on the ground soon." They entered the tower, and the entrance sealed behind, them leaving no sign that it had ever existed. The spiral path led them upward, the walls pulsing with gentle light that seemed to respond to their presence. "It's scanning us," Daijung realized, watching the patterns of light change as they pass it, analyzing our biology, maybe even our thoughts. The climb seemed to go on forever. They were all tired and breathing hard by the time they reached the top. There they found a vast chamber that took up the entire upper section of the tower. Indo. The center of the chamber floated a crystalline sphere, about 2 meters wide, suspended in an energy field. It glowed with the same blue light as the bone fragments. "It's a ship," Hyunwoo said suddenly, his cybernetic eye picking up details the others couldn't see. "Or part of one. A navigation system, maybe." Before anyone could respond, the sphere pulsed with bright light and a figure appeared beside it. It wasn't solid, more like a projection made of light. The being was tall and slender with long limbs and a head that featured multiple eye-like organs. Despite how strange it looked, there was something familiar about the way it stood, the way it moved. The alien didn't speak with words. Instead, waves of emotion washed over the humans. Curiosity, hope, longing, and a deep sadness that made their hearts ache. "It's communicating with us," Junho said in wonder. "Not through language, but through feelings." Ji-yoon stepped forward, reaching out toward the hologram. "Who are you? What is this place?" The alien's response came as a series of images that appeared in their minds. They saw a vast civilization spanning many galaxies. They saw a terrible war that destroyed countless worlds. They saw the decision to hide their greatest technology where only the right kind of species would find it, a species capable of deep emotion, of connection, of love. They were looking for us, Junho realized. Or someone like us. They left the bone fragments as a test. The hologram nodded, pleased that they understood. More images flooded their minds. The bone fragments, scattered across the galaxy, each one programmed to respond only to beings whose biology contained the capacity for deep emotional bonds. The map wasn't just a location, it was a test of worthiness. They wanted to make sure their technology wouldn't be used for destruction, Ji-yoon said softly. They needed to find beings who would use it wisely. The alien gestured to the crystalline sphere, and they understood its purpose. It was a key to vast networks of ancient technology hidden throughout the galaxy. Technology that could heal worlds, create endless energy, allow instant travel across vast distances, but only for those who approached it with the right intentions. Their moment of understanding was interrupted by a thunderous boom from below. The tower shook slightly. The hegemony had found them. The holographic alien looked at each of them in turn, its strange features impossible to read, but its emotional projection clear. Urgency, decision, hope. "It wants us to do something," Daijung said, looking around, frantically. "But what?" Through the walls of the tower, they heard Taewoo Choi's voice, somehow broadcast through the structure itself. "We've secured the perimeter. Surrender now and you'll be treated fairly. Continue to resist and we'll bring this entire structure down around you." Ji-yoon looked at her brother, then at the crystalline sphere. "Whatever this is, we can't let the hegemony have it. They'll weaponize it, use it to dominate every world in the galaxy." The alien being projected another image into their minds. 5 humans standing around the sphere, hands joined, blood freely given. A final test of trust and cooperation. Junho understood immediately. "It needs all of us," he said. "Not just our blood, but our choice to give it freely, together." As the tower shook more violently from the hegemony's weapons, the 5 humans faced a choice that would determine not just their fate, but potentially the fate of their entire species. The ancient alien civilization had left behind a gift of immense power, but only those with the right heart could claim it. The tower shook harder as the hegemony forces continued their attack. Small pieces of the ceiling began to fall around the 5 humans standing in the chamber. The holographic alien looked at each of them, its strange eyes somehow conveying urgency, despite their alien appearance. "What does it want us to do?" Sukja asked, her voice tight with fear. Junho stared at the crystalline sphere floating in the center of the chamber. "It needs our blood," he said. "All of us together." Daejung nodded in understanding. He reached into his medical kit and pulled out a small device. "This will take a small amount of blood from each of us," he explained. "It won't hurt?" "Are we sure about this?" Hyunwoo asked, his human eye showing doubt while his cybernetic one continued to scan the sphere. The tower shook again, more violently this time. Below them, they could hear the sound of the hegemony forces breaking through the lower levels. Ji-yoon looked at each member of her crew. "We don't have a choice," she said. "Either we trust this alien technology, or we let the hegemony take it. I know which option I prefer." One by one, they agreed. They formed a circle around the floating sphere, joining hands to create an unbroken ring. With his free hand, Daejung activated his medical device, which moved from person to person, taking a small blood sample from each. When it finished, the device floated to the sphere and applied the combined blood to its crystalline surface. The effect was immediate and spectacular. The sphere absorbed the blood and began to pulse with intense light, patterns flowing across its surface like liquid fire. The holographic alien raised its arms in what seemed like celebration. Suddenly, all 5 humans felt a rush of knowledge pouring into their minds. It wasn't painful, but it was overwhelming. They saw images of a vast network of ancient technology spread throughout the galaxy. They understood how to use it, how to protect it, how to ensure it would never be used as a weapon. They saw why they had been chosen, because humans, for all their flaws, possessed the capacity for deep connection, for sacrifice, for love, qualities the ancient civilization had valued above all others. As this knowledge filled their minds, the hegemony forces finally broke through to the upper chamber. Officer Taewoo Choi led the way, weapon raised. His face showed a mixture of triumph and greed as he saw the glowing sphere. "Stop," he commanded. "Whatever you're doing, stop it now." But it was too late. The sphere expanded rapidly, creating a protective field of energy around the 5 humans. Through the translucent barrier, they watched as Choi and his soldiers tried to break through, their weapons having no effect on the ancient technology. "What is happening?" Sukja asked, watching the sphere continue to change around them. "It's protecting us," Junho said with wonder in his voice, "and it's preparing to take us somewhere." Choi's face contorted with rage as he realized what was happening. "You can't take this from the hegemony," he shouted. "This technology belongs to us." The holographic alien turned to look at Choi, and for a moment, a wave of emotion washed over everyone in the room. Pity. Not for the humans inside the sphere, but for the man who could only see the technology as a weapon. The sphere contracted suddenly, and in a flash of blinding light, the 5 humans vanished from the chamber. Choi and his soldiers were left standing. In an empty room, the crystalline sphere and the humans gone without a trace. Across the galaxy, on a planet never before touched by human feet, Jiun, Junho, and their 3 companions reappeared. The sphere had transported them instantly, using technology beyond human understanding. They found themselves standing on a grassy hill, overlooking a vast valley filled with structures similar to the tower they had just left. The sky above was blue with wisps of white clouds. 2 small moons were visible even in the daylight. "Where are we?" Hyun-woo asked, his cybernetic eye working frantically to calculate their position. "A sanctuary world," Junho said, the knowledge somehow in his mind. One of many the ancient civilization created before they disappeared. "What happened to them?" Daejung asked, looking at the abandoned city below. Junho shook his head sadly. They evolved beyond physical form. They left these worlds and their technology for species that might come after them. Species that showed the right qualities. Jiun stared at the valley below. "And now it belongs to us?" "Not belongs," Junho corrected. "We're its guardians. We're meant to learn from it, to use it wisely, to share it with humanity when the time is right." The crystalline sphere had come with them, though it was smaller now, about the size of a fist. It floated near them, pulsing gently with blue light. "What about the hegemony?" Sukja asked. "Won't they keep looking for us?" "They can't find this world," Junho explained. "It exists partially outside normal space. The bone fragments were the only way to reach it, and now they've been reabsorbed into the tower." "So we're safe?" Daejung asked. "We're safe," Jiun confirmed. "And we have work to do." Over the next few days, they explored the ancient city. The technology they found was beyond anything humans had ever created. Machines that could heal any injury, generate unlimited clean energy, grow food without soil, and even alter the climate of an entire planet. But most remarkable was the transportation network. The crystalline sphere was a key to hundreds of similar towers spread throughout the galaxy. With it, they could instantly travel to any of those locations. "What do we do with all this?" Sukja asked one evening. as they sat on the hill overlooking the city. It's too much for just 5 people. We learn, Junho said. We study. We understand what we've been given. And then? Hyunwoo asked. Ji-eun looked up at the stars, visible now in the darkening sky. Then we find others. People we can trust. People who will use this technology the way it was meant to be used, to help, not to harm. What if the hegemony finds another way here? Daijung asked. Junho shook his head. They won't. The ancient civilization made sure of that. This technology responds only to those with the right qualities: compassion, empathy, love. The hegemony values power and control. They could never activate it. As they sat together under the alien sky, each of them felt the weight of the responsibility they had been given. They were now the guardians of a legacy left by a civilization that had seen something valuable in humanity, something worth preserving. What do we do now? Sukja asked, overwhelmed by the possibilities before them. Jiyeon looked at her brother and smiled. We do what humans do best, she said. We learn, we grow, we connect, and we make sure this gift is used to heal, not to harm. Junho nodded, understanding that the map written in alien bone had led them not just to a place but to a purpose, and the key, the human heart with its capacity for love, had unlocked not just a door but a future. As the 5 humans took their first steps into their new role as guardians of an ancient legacy, they carried with them the hope of 2 civilizations, one long past and one just beginning to understand its place in the vast, mysterious universe. The alien bones had found their way home, and in doing so, had shown humanity a path to the stars, a path lit not by the fire of weapons, but by the light of human hearts. The end.